Some of the practicalities of getting on top of being anxious. You mentioned just before the news a really powerful one, and that is getting on your knees before God, inviting Him into the challenges that you're facing. And this is one where a lot of people will be able to testify, yes, the anxiousness that I have felt subsides when I invite God into my problems. Where else do we go from here? Hit us with a bit of a list of these sorts of things that you can do.
Yep. So with that first one, the presence of God, perfect love casts out fear. We're told that and we know that. So that's absolutely an essential component of our toolbox. Then there's generosity. Lots of studies around what happens to us when we are generous. We actually receive something in return which impacts our well-being. So that's another one. Another one is being anxious about time and learning to manage our time so that we are living in the present moment. And another one would be self-care. We are taught to love our neighbours as ourselves, but we sort of put the ourself down the bottom somewhere. Love God, love our neighbour as ourselves. But no, love our neighbour as ourselves. So actually we need to love ourselves. So self-care is really key. Friends, nurturing friends in your world, having a group of friends that impart to you, that's pretty awesome. And number 6, which I've just tacked on, it's a new one, that is get the person inside you out. We'll get to that one.
Okay, all right. We'll hold the thought on that. Let's come back to some of these and maybe a thought or two. On the one you mentioned, giving, being generous. Now, this is an interesting thing because Christians are encouraged to give. You know, if you go along to a church service, somebody will pass an offering bag around or you'll be giving online somehow like that. The giving aspect, the generosity, even if you're under pressure, does that alleviate anxiety? Is this a little bit like a practical expression that you might have when you're on your knees inviting God in? Because if you're giving to God, you're inviting Him in. How does this work?
It depends on the heart. If we give cheerfully and if we give knowing that God is our source, our provider, our Jehovah Jireh, if we give in that way in confidence, then that will relieve anxiety. If we give and feel more concerned about our giving, it won't do anything for our anxiety. And in fact, it will increase it. So it really is about the heart here. Watch how you give. And look, the way to do that is to just seek God before you give. What should I be tithing, Lord, at this point when things are so tough? You know, I've done all the sums and I don't know if I can do that. God, what are you saying? Maybe God's saying give more. But whatever you feel, that's where the peace is, and then you can give cheerfully, and that will make a difference. So give, tithing generously to others in your world. Give whenever you can, and honestly, the benefits to you are enormous.
Okay, you're feeling anxious. You mentioned, loving God. That might be a part of what you do if you're getting down on your knees, loving others. You said love yourself, loving ourselves as a sort of a remedy here for some of this anxiousness. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is self-care, and we care for ourselves when we love ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves very much, it's very hard to put ourselves somewhere on our priority list to look after ourselves. But if we do nurture ourselves because of our self-love, because God first loved us, then we can look after ourselves. And when we look after ourselves, we've got more to give. So it's a big component of reducing anxiety when we have enough time for ourselves, when we take some time out, when we pamper ourselves a little bit. This week I'm actually taking a hand because I need to, because I've had a rough couple of weeks, and all of a sudden this little sort of juxtaposition of things appeared where I could do it. And I thought, movies, popcorn, let me do it. So that's just a bit of self-care that I'm putting in for myself because I need it, because I minister to a lot of people. And sometimes when we do that, we just become empty. And I'd become a bit empty to the point I was doing sort of mad things. So if you are getting to the point where you're on the edge, self-care, put it up there. So it's important.
Well, we are talking about Are You Anxious? Let's take a call, and our talkback line is open on 1-800-316-316.